The irony being is that in this moving on energy, we're actually having less clarity of what we're moving towards. And so this moving on energy is being done in the unknown and is bringing us back into the present moment.
Hi, I'm Zoe.
Hi, I'm Erica.
Hey, Erica. This is our podcast.
Well, what do we do on the podcast?
We talk to wellness experts.
Well, what do we talk about?
Wellness stuff.
And why are we doing this?
Because we want to have an inclusive conversation about things that you can actually use and apply to your life.
Right. We don't think that wellness should feel preachy. We think it should feel like everybody can participate.
That's right. So if you like what you hear, tell a friend. Give us 5 stars. They're all free.
All of the above.
All of the above.
And think of us as your navigators on the bumpy highway to well.
Natalie Miles.
Natalie Miles, yes, she is lovely. Could listen to her
a lot of things that the rest of us don't know yet.
Yeah, which makes me a little suspicious because she's like on a road trip. I'm like, do we need to be
in Canada?
Like, do we need to be fleeing? Right? I'm like, oh, Canada, really? What are you not telling us?
Yeah, she's
like, yeah, just me and my dog and a month's supply of food in the trunk.
I started thinking about that too. I'm like, do we need to talk about Station 11 while we are?
I can't. That book is just, and now, well, there's the show is on, right?
I didn't even read the book. I watched the show and it really has.
Oh.
I watched it a year ago and it has stayed with me.
Oh, it's been on for that long?
Yeah.
That's so creepy. Anyway, but yes, it's I think she's on to some Station 11 tip.
Yeah.
But she's lovely and seems very informed and full of insights. Yeah, she has one-on-one sessions. She has collective sessions, these collective predictions for like the year, which is what we spoke about. And then she also sort of teaches people how to tap into their own intuitive nature, because apparently we all have it.
So, spoiler alert for the year.
We're screwed.
It seems like we need to sit tight for a little bit longer.
We need to sit tight right here in our present chair, being present. Just be present. Seems like that was the plan. She was like, my only advice, stop trying to plan, throw your goals out the window, and just put the hard work in the here and now. And sorry, I'm like basically giving them cliff notes for this entire conversation.
That's
but
okay.
I mean, it's
it.
You know, because we just had the conversation and now I'm digesting it in the intro, which is a very backwards way of doing this. But it's a lot to digest. It's a lot. I guess I'm hopeful. I think some of it was like very validating though.
I think it was definitely validating. And I also think, look, I mean, obviously this topic, this area is not, not everybody responds to it in the same way. There's certainly a lot of skepticism and cynicism out there around, this type of conversation having to do with intuition and, mediums and connecting to the other side. But I honestly feel like it doesn't matter what label or name you put it on. You can talk about energy and, we can't argue with energy. It exists in the universe and we see how the exchange of energy and the flow of energy has impact on things. And science and physics, like it kind of doesn't matter what bucket you put it under. It's all really sort of telling us the same message, which is that, to your point, sitting in the present, being more focused on the present is the only way to really get to the future. And you can't continue to live in the future. Why are you smirking?
Because you're like, the message is pause. I was just going to interject there yet again. You're screwed. We're screwed.
Yes.
Kidding.
Yes. I thought she was actually joking when you asked her if she made any massive predictions for 2020. I won't give away what she said, but I
know. Well, obviously we have to look back and say, well, what's your track record? How accurate have you been? And we asked her about a big whopper that happened recently. And guess what? Spoiler alert. She called it.
Yeah.
And it's like documented apparently.
God.
Oh dear. I'm going to go and schedule my one-on-one session like immediately.
Yeah. She's wonderful.
She's good. Good chat.
All right. Well, hopefully we didn't spoil too much because there's a lot to dig into. So have a listen and enjoy.
Hey, co-founders of Earth and Star here. real quick. What if we told you that your morning cup of coffee could deliver powerful immune support, keep dementia at bay, and help you sleep like a baby?
Or that you could improve your gut health and reduce inflammation with a delicious daily gummy?
You'd probably say we're full of shiitake.
Well, it can. And as it turns out, all of these powerful health benefits are hiding right under our feet, literally, in the form of functional mushrooms, sometimes referred to as adaptogens.
Adaptogens. They are fancy plants and fungi chock full of science-backed benefits to help your body restore, defend, and perform every single day. Earth and Star is our line of super premium adaptogen-infused goodies.
Goodies. What do we got? We've got organic ground coffee in dark roast, hazelnut, even decaf for people like me. And they're all boosted with a powerful dose of adaptogen extracts to give you the most delicious morning brew with zero crash, zero jitters, zero for real.
Talk to me. I like it. But is it actual coffee? Or that weird muddy tasting coffee replacement that you have to like mix and froth and then convince yourself it tastes good.
Tastes good and not like mud, you mean? No, because it's actual coffee. We just added in the extracts. So you get extracts for powerful focus, sustained energy, no anxiety, no big whoop.
And if that's not your thing, we've also got dark chocolate bars. I mean, come on, they're organic, 72% cacao with delicious flavors like mint, orange, sea salt, and all with no weird crap or additives. Most likely you have a daily chocolate habit anyway, so why not make it super delicious and functional while you're at it?
And what's that? You still need an easier way to make this adaptogen habit stick?
I see what you did there. I see where you're going.
Done. I know. Here's what I did. We've got gummies too. Get it? They stick.
Nice.
And we managed to pack a therapeutic dose into just 2 little vegan gummies.
Two, not 4 or 6, because come on, people, no grown-ass adult needs 6 gummies a day. But if you do, no judgments.
No judgments. And no, Earth and Star products do not taste like mushrooms. We will legit give you your money back if you taste even the slightest hint of shroominess. Our products are just like the ones you are already consuming regularly. Real coffee, real chocolate, etc. They are just boosted with functionality to help you adapt every day.
Adapt every day with all the stuff that comes our way. Oh my God, I just did a rhyme.
That was good.
That's pretty good. So check us out at earthandstar.com and or follow us at Earth and Star Co. And if you want 15% off, you can use the code HTW on your first order.
Wow, we are very excited to chat with you. I think in general, just the topic of intuition and medium work and all of that is certainly fascinating, and there seems to be a lot of traction in this area right now. So I would love to get your thoughts on why that might be, but also because we're here in January. It's the beginning of New Year. There's lots of stuff going on. I know with like moons and planetary shifts and all of that. And we thought that maybe it would be a good time to get a little bit of some extra insight from the universe through you.
Yeah. It's really fascinating because why is intuition having and the spiritual community, inverted commas, I hate that phrase if I'm really honest with you. I think there's a lot of co-opting happening in the spiritual community right now where it's just another business venture that is being abused and plundered in lots of different ways.
For sure.
There's a lot of inauthentic people saying they are some things and they're not. So I think there's that. Again, I think anyone that's kind of venturing into this space, do your homework like you would do if you were going to see a doctor or whatever, or you're having a handyman come over, someone to come over to your house to fix something, and you do the research on them. Do the same with your spiritual practitioners. It's really, really important because your energy is really important. And it's really important to have that awareness. But there is this, we're in this really big shift right now, and people are opening up to their gifts, they're opening up to their awareness. There is a real shift going on of people are looking for something right now. People are looking for something to help them to anchor, to ground. And that's why there is this kind of potential draw to see and look for something outside of ourselves versus, again, the intuition and your gifts and your talents come, obviously come from within. I mean, obviously the outside world is, showing you signs and messages and giving you guidance, but it's really, really important to remember that the power is in your hands, and it's not that there's someone that's better than you or has more, greater gifts that you need to be plugging in. I think this time is a really powerful time where we're really dropping into, our own truths, our own power, and realizing that, and finding those people that can support us. But yeah, I think there's a lot of shifts going on right now until 2027. We're really building to those 2 years. When I tune in, there's a lot of change on this planet, and I think everyone is beginning. It started in 2020, probably with the build up for many people in 2019. And it continues. So when everyone keeps going, yay, new year, is this going to be better than 2020, 21, 22? And it's like, no, it's more of the same. Like, it's more crumbling, it's more shifting, it's more coming into alignment with who you are and what you're about. And that's the name of the game right now. We can't hide from the things that don't work. And that is on a micro in our own personal lives, and also in a macro collective of like what doesn't work in society or what's been in the shadows that needs to be brought to the light so it can be seen. It's a really interesting time to be on this planet.
Okay, so you're saying this is a long time to wait. Okay, so there's like supposed to be some kind of seismic shift that happens, you're saying, in like 2026, 27?
Yeah.
It's 2023. What
Yeah.
do you do? What am I doing between now and then? I just have to face all the shitty things that are happening?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
It's the where are you not being truthful with yourself? Where is the body communicating with you that it needs to be evolved, shifted, adapted? What emotions or traumas that have been kept in the body that need to be looked at? What ancestor stories? So the stories that we carry on from our ancestors, the cyclical patterns that we don't realize that we're continuing to repeat in our relationships, in how we show up and how we treat ourselves, how our relationship to money, our relationship to our bodies, the relationship to our homes, that's all coming up right now. So we're in this real, we're
in the shit.
We're in this real, we got to face it. There's no even to the point where, I mean, you just look at right now with we've had this rise of celebrity culture, which is based on like a facade, or again, there's this separateness. That's gonna be. I'm really excited to see what happens.
Oh my God.
In the celebrity world and how that crashes.
When is that happening? So I can just
ASAP,
start planning the party now.
How does it happen? That's what I want to know. I want to know
because
what
last year was all about. The theme for last year was polarity. So the theme for 2022 was polarity. And part of polarity was about identity. That last year we were really going to be discovering our true identities and the identities that we really wanted to shine, the parts of us that we weren't stepping into, and being really honest with ourselves around like what worked and what didn't. And this year, 2023, the energy theme for 2023 is moving on. And so this year we're really being asked to, what you discovered about yourself in 2022. Now it's action time. It's like, how do we move on from this? How do what you've discovered about yourself is moving on from that. And to bring it back to the celebrity culture, I really think there's going to be this seeing of what's real, what's not, and people seeing that those values, being like, well, are those my values? Are those my values to, own a sport, a supercar and have a 10-bedroom house? And, and is that what I really want? Or actually, is it more simple than that? But I also think we're going to see the darker underworld of seeing the strings that are being pulled behind celebrities to share news narrative, or and or to look at the money that's connected behind the scenes and see the connection between it, because it's all connected to things.
Yeah.
Just like on a practical level, I'm just curious, like when do you sort of understand all of these things? Just you personally, like when is this something that like through the course of 2022 was sort of like formulating, or you were getting sort of, insights, messages? I don't totally understand. How does that information come through to you, and like when?
Yeah.
Well, and before you answer that, can we also like take it one step back and understand sort of how this even became available to you, and what got you started here? How did this world that you operate in happen? And then to Zoe's point, like, how does this information actually continue to come, and how do you process it? Like, what's your method?
Great question. I mean, I've been psychic as a kid growing up. I realized I could give messages to people when I was 16, when my mum invited me to a psychic circle, which was basically a group of people that got together in a house in the UK, and it was like, let's practice giving messages with each other. So that's how I realized I could give messages. But then I kind of, it was around in my sphere, but it wasn't as if I was like, right, I'm going to make a career out of this. Like, I had a career in film for 10 years, producing brand films, commercials, sports films. That's what I did. And then life took a detour and was like, hi, this is what you're supposed to be doing. But for me, it's really, I've always been really good at themes and patterns, and being able to see timelines of things, and being able to zoom out of the micro into the macro. So I scan timelines. So that's how I work. I'll go forward and I'll go back, and I'll look at themes and patterns, and they'll show me themes and patterns, and then they'll bring me, like, either show it to me as a global event, or they'll bring me a certain word, and for me, I'll go and like look at the energy and I will ask to receive the energy of the year or the energy of the month. So, and sometimes I'm not doing it consciously. Sometimes I'm just like walking around or doing something at home, like vacuuming the floor, and they're like, this is the energy forecast for February. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I'll write it down. It can come in dream form as well. Like, I'll get dreams. But yeah, for me, it's been this real kind of journey from being younger, like, and receiving messages, knowing and feeling when something is off, knowing when something's going on with somebody. And then over the last recent, 10 years, really being able to kind of look at it on a global level and see what's happening on a thematic level in the collective. So it's really been, and I'm someone that always says, like, your gifts will change over time. Your intuitive gifts will change over time. So have I always had this gift to be able to channel what's coming in the collective? Probably, but I didn't know I had it because I wasn't practicing. Like, I wasn't playing in the energy of my own intuition, which is why I encourage people to, ask for the signs, ask for the messages, ask to be shown things, and actually engage with the energy versus just like sitting and waiting for the guidance to come to you. Sometimes we have to kind of go and meet that energy in the middle to receive. But I always say, like, everyone has everyone's intuitive. Everyone has some form of intuitive gifts.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I mean, you wrote a book called You Are Intuitive. Yeah. And I'm curious to understand more about that, because I know that is a common theory that everybody does have some level of intuition, and maybe we refer to it, differently. Maybe we call it instincts, or we call it, spidey senses or whatever. I think I think that, Zoe is like super keen on, she picks up on things that it takes me or other people, maybe a few hours or days or whatever longer to actually realize, or, just when you but how you do believe that, or, I mean, you state that we all have it, and how how are we supposed to actually tap into it if it's not something that feels, comfortable or familiar? We don't have the opportunity to go sit in a psychic circle and actually really try to work at it.
Yeah, there are so many different ways. Firstly, I always say sometimes we need to look at what's blocking us from connecting to our intuition, because sometimes there's either a fear of the energy. A lot of people are scared around connecting to intuition because there's this fear that they'll turn the tap on and then they won't be able to turn it off, and then they'll be like seeing dead people in their room, and then and they don't want that. So so there's this fear that if you open up to the energy that you won't be able to turn it off, and that then it might bring in like unwanted visitors. And so I mean, in the book, I go into great detail on like how you can like shut, how you open up and how you shut down and how you ground so that doesn't happen. But on a practical level, looking at the other blocks that come up for you, whether it's social conditioning, that it's not like real, or we've been told that it's not real. A lot of people have religious conditioning as well around religion, and that it's bad, that it'll bring through like evil spirits. And a lot of people on a subconscious level have a lot of past life conditioning around it as well, where past lives where they've been like persecuted or tortured for, inverted commas, either being a witch or being intuitive or being a healer or working with plants. All those people were, a lot of people were persecuted for that in the past. So there's a lot of kind of stickiness around like why connect. But on a day-to-day basis, one really simple way is like when you get up in the morning and you have a shower, use the water to cleanse your body. And then use the water to cleanse your aura, and then ask your guides, like ask them to step forward, ask your team, because we all have a spirit team, to step forward and ask them, like, what do I need to know today? What do I need to know today? And then just notice where your mind wanders, how you feel in your body, what imagery comes up. And that's a really simple way. And then for me, I always say that your intuitive messages are always coming through in your day-to-day life. Again, those themes, those patterns. You might overhear words all the time, and there might be this thing, and then you keep watching TV shows and films that have the same theme as well. And you're like, oh my God, they're really trying to get my attention, with this certain energy or this certain thing I'm experiencing. For me, that's intuition as well. That is your team like showing you, hi, you need to look at this. Like we keep dropping in the same word or theme or pattern. Like this is something that you need to look at.
I see numbers all the time. I see the same number all of the time, everywhere.
Yeah.
It's my apartment number. It's the number of my home upstate. It's like, I always look at the clock at that time. It's very strange.
Amazing. Yeah. I have it with the numbers 8 and 32, or multiples of 8, 16, 32. Mm-hmm. Like even when I got a car and I could choose the number plate, and there was this pile of number plates that I could pick. And and when I saw it at the number plate and it had my numbers in it, I was like, well, that's the plate. It was fascinating. How it comes up.
So do you practice more with like the collective, or how do you break that out with individuals and sort of these larger thematic?
For me, it's all the same. So how I channel for people, when I have a session with someone, I just start talking and I see what comes up, and I hear, see, feel, know, and I just start talking, and then they show me timelines of people of, this happened when you were age 10, this happened at 24, and this is why you're dealing with this now, because there was an event that happened when you were younger that's connected to what's happening now. And so people can see the pattern and the through line of what's, because sometimes we see things in isolation, like something's happening in our life and we, whether it's a relationship breakdown or a problem with money or something that happened with our body, and we're wondering why our body won't bounce back from something on a healing level. And they will then show the person, or show me, that I then share, well, didn't this happen to this? Or this happened to someone around you and this impacted you this way. And a lot of people are like, oh shit, I never put those two things together. And so for me, seeing that pattern and that timeline is the message and guidance for the healing that that person needs in the now, that can then bring them closer to what they want in the future. Of course, they bring through future things, but a lot of the time it's like, this is what's happening in your life and this is where it comes from. And so for me, it's the same as the collective energy. It's the same. For me, there's no differentiation between me channeling a collective message and a personal message. For me, it's the same. It might have, like, I can tell the difference between whether it's an ancestral message or it's a spirit guide message or it's a collective message. There's a certain, I mean, I sound really weird saying this. There's like a certain and different energetic quality to it, or it feels different when it's entering my body or entering my mind or entering or actually coming out as words. It feels different. And it's the same when I'm doing mediumship, because I'm a medium and I can bring through loved ones. If someone on the other side speaks really fast, I speak fast. If they do weird certain pauses in their speaking or they have a particular tone, my voice mimics them in some way. And people are like, oh, wow, that's really fascinating. You even sound like how they talk. And that's just because you're connecting to that kind of energetic quality.
So when you say they,
yeah,
is it my they, or is it your
great question
team? Is it your team talking to you, or is it my cheerleaders?
Yeah, I love that you say that, because lots of people who are channels, they'll label where it comes from. So they'll label whether it's a set of galactic guides, or they'll label like Abraham Hicks or whatever. They'll label like, this is who I'm channeling. For me, I've never done that. It's never come through to me in that way. For me, it's that I'm working with your guys, with your team and my team, and I'm acting as an intermediary, like a radio, basically like a radio receiver, to connect your team, your loved ones to my team, and that I can then share the information that wants to come through.
And just really quick, because I know that I have so many things to cover, but I have to throw this out before I forget, and because it's sort of what we're talking about when you're talking about the ancestors. If you want to connect with someone, does this just, what do you think, I guess, is the most blunt way of saying this? Like, what do you think happens when you die? I mean, like, are you crossing over to this cheerleading side?
Great question. I really feel that our soul moves on to a different body. I really feel that we get reincarnated into, again, a great book for that is Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, to describe it. But I really feel that we go somewhere, we're in this kind of bardo state, this liminal state, and then we get reincarnated into a different body. And then when there are soul groups within that, so we get our families repeat themselves, where we then become the father or the mother or the child within the different family dynamic in a new time. That's how I see it. So people then always ask, well, who are you connecting to then? If you're doing mediumship and they've moved on, like, who are you connecting to? Like,
That's what I was
and
gonna
so
ask
I always share that we leave an energetic imprint. So we leave an imprint of ourselves at that time in that body. So when someone's coming through and they're sharing, like that something happened, and they were like, they're watching, they're like so a moment happened in their life, and this person on the other side was watching. It's like an imprint of being it. It's interesting because I was reading a news article about Prince Harry in this new book, and how he went to go and see a medium to contact Princess Diana. And I thought, good on him for talking about going to see a medium, because there's something really powerful, because he shared the story around a Christmas ornament or something breaking. And I know a lot of people will be like, well, was that actually Princess Diana doing, like, there in the room, like, watching this happen? And all I'll say is, like, it was an imprint of her in that space, viewing that moment that the medium could then share.
I'm going to need a diagram.
Fascinating. I know.
I'm going to need some kind of visual.
The logical brain.
I need like a flow chart of like how we're moving throughout.
The soul goes here, and the body
space.
goes here, and the imprint goes here.
And that's the funny thing in this space-time continuum of sharing messages as well, of how that sits and flows within space and time. And I know a lot of psychics won't give timelines on things because they say, you know, that, well, what is the timeline? Time is different on the other side too. So we only have a human relativity to time. So how do you do that? But you can still give timelines within that. But timelines that you also, as a human, have to be doing the work too. You know, many times have I done a client session and they've given like practical, hard advice, like practical advice of things that need to shift and change for them to move forward. And then people come back, you know, 6 to 8 months later, and Spirit's like, yeah, but did you do the things? Did you actually make the changes? And it's like, well, you didn't. So how do you expect things to change in the physical if you're not willing to invest in like putting the energy in that like transformation too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting.
It is.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to go back just to what we were talking about at the beginning when you're speaking on more of a kind of a global level, and you were talking about looking at timelines and, you know, this like 2026, 2027 goal that we have to kind of push towards. But you said that it started before the pandemic. You said that this shift kind of started in 2019 around then. And so I guess the question is, is there an explanation or any kind of insight into what actually shifted? And then the other part of that question is like, where were we before that? And because I think we can certainly all point to times in our lives around that year, for example, and say, oh, well, yeah, things maybe felt better before that, which may or may not be true on an individual basis. But can you give a little bit more
as a generalization? It's interesting when you say 2019, I keep hearing like the Dory, like just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Like there's this energy of like, we're all in this like just keep swimming mode, and we're doing our things, and we're like planning for the future. There was so much future planning. Like, I'm going to be doing this next year, and I'm going to be doing that next year, and this is what I'm going to be doing in 2 years' time. And there has been this bringing stuff down to the present where we're not, again, like being shown that we need to overplan. There were many conversations that I had in 2019 with other intuitives and healers, and being like, what's the elephant in the room for 2020? Like, what is going, like, there was a build up to the energy, really, really shifting, and moving towards that. The US elections, Trump, everything that's connected to that was all part of that energy as well. And the shift in kind of US politics is definitely part of all of that. But what it has shown us is, I think we're being asked to be like more value driven and to be more from the heart. Again, this authenticity of like, what do we want? How is it important to us? And more importantly, the phrase is like, what's in the shadows? Like, what's in the shadows of your relationship, your intimate relationships, your friendships, your family dynamics? That's all coming up, and has been coming up within 2020, 2021, 2022 of really being like living in your values and living in your heart space, and looking at really what's not working. Like many people who've been in jobs for years and years and years, but they feel like they can't make a change because, you know, that's what they've always done. Now they're like, oh God, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, how do I make this, how do I make this change? Or they've been living somewhere for a really long time and they're like, nope, this is what I do. This is what home is. And then suddenly it's like, actually, like, this isn't serving us. Like, it's just stripping everything. The energy right now is just stripping everything back. And the shift of where we are right now in this moving on energy is we're all being like moved to places where we need to anchor the energy for the next phase. And we're also in this moving on energy, like getting closer to what lights us up again, like getting us closer to what feels like our true selves. And it's what the polarity of that is also the pressure of like the news telling you like, yeah, but we've got a global recession, so don't do that. Like, again, there's always something in the news or something that's happening. And of course we have to acknowledge it. It's real. Like, people, like, living costs are higher, fuel costs, like everything is coming up to a real point. But it's asking us to, again, see that like squeeze that's happening in our personal lives and the squeeze that's happening in the collective. But personally, I really see that people are having such massive transformational like breakthroughs. Like, people are really being like, I'm not living like that anymore. And that's really powerful to witness. And I think there's going to be, like we've had over the last couple of years, of people going on the streets and saying like, no, enough, this doesn't fit, this doesn't work. There is going to be, again, it's going to be back to the people to be like, hang on a second, this doesn't fit, or this doesn't work, or how can we change things? So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how voices are amplified, but also how voices are squished over the next little while as well. Yeah.
Yeah. 2020 was, if nothing else, just like created such a domino effect for everyone to just break apart, where they live, how they live, what their job is. Do they really need to be there? I mean, it's incredible. No one was untouched by that. And it's still sort of like unraveling. Like, we're still feeling the aftershocks of the 2020 sort of like shift that literally just shook up the snow globe,
Yeah, 100%. Someone gave an analogy to me. It's like the snake has eaten the mouse and it now has to move all the way through the body. And right now it's like stuck at the throat, and we still have to have it being, it has to process all the way down.
So the throat is 2023 and the tail of the snake is 2027. Is that right? Exactly. Shit. That's like, that's some horrible digestion right there, by the way.
But I think what everyone is really being called to right now is community and family and people. There's this, and it doesn't have to be like familial family, but whatever you identify as family. But there is this real need and feeling to be connected to the land that you're on, as well as the people that are around you, and having that, be made really obvious in 2020. There feels like, again, in 2023, there is this real like focus on that. One of the words, because there's like, I do an overview theme, and then there's lots and lots of sub themes that come through for the 2023 energy forecast. And 2023 was, one of the words was nourishment. And this year is all about nourishment. And we have to like make that a priority around nourishing our bodies, nourishing our soul, nourishing our fun and our joy, nourishing our relationships. Like, it's really important this year.
So it's interesting that you say that it has a lot to do with the land that you're connected to, but then you yourself are completely nomadic right now. So how do you reconcile that?
There's some stuff shifting behind the scenes right now that I'm not ready to share yet. Yeah. But there's that it's impacting me. Of course it's impacting me. Again, everyone's like, oh, does this mean that because you get all the downloads and all the insights that you're immune to this stuff? And I'm like, oh God, I wish. That would be amazing. But I also know that I sometimes I experience things like 3 months in advance of the stuff that's happening in the collective, so that when it's ready to be shared, I've already integrated I've already integrated it myself. I'm lucky that I haven't been nomadic since October. So I'm in one place now until March, which has been really, really nice again to be anchored in one space, in one spot. But I'm getting downloads of where I'm being moved to next that feels like, a longer anchoring in. And it's brought up a lot because I think we're in this space where sometimes it's not what we expected, or we can resist where we're being guided towards out of ego, out of being stuck what we think our future visions look like. Oh, but I thought my life was going to look like this, or I thought this was how it was going to go. And I think so people are like, oh, but if you got that as an intuitive message, does that mean the intuitive message was wrong? And for me, I always say, well, that message that I received in March has taken me on this insane journey, which has actually been such a massive healing portal. And for whatever message you guys are receiving personally too, around never see as an intuitive hit or a download as wrong, because the insight that happens off the back of it is part of the journey that then leads you to the next piece of intuitive information that leads you closer to where you're supposed to be.
Right. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I feel like this sort of swirling question in my mind always when I'm trying to like really check in with like, what message am I supposed to be receiving right now? Or like, what are my guides telling me? I mean, I think it's like, it's so hard to tell the difference between, your gut, your intuition. Like, how do you really truly trust yourself and not get confused with sometimes like these overriding things that come in, out of left field,
fear,
like
anxiety,
the ego and the fear,
monkey
and
brain.
How do you operate out of a place of true, authentic, like intuition and not confuse it with these other very common?
Great question. I think a couple of things. I have a whole chapter in the book about this, but sometimes it's about us being really honest with ourselves of when we're lying to ourselves, or when we're like, when we know something is off, but we keep pushing forward. There's also that feeling when something does feel off. But a lot of the time people are like, yeah, but sometimes the change and the transformation is uncomfortable. So how can you trust something that feels really uncomfortable, especially if you have trauma responses to it? Because then you could be bringing up something from the past that actually you need to move through and heal to move closer to the future. It's such a minefield. For me personally, how I describe it is the intuitive message will come in, it will give you the message, and it will leave. It will leave your mind. It comes in, it gives you the message, and it leaves. And it will come in with like an authoritative tone. It will have an energy behind it that it feels like it's dropping in a piece of information, and then it will leave. The anxiety fear brain will give you the information, and then it'll be like whirring around, and then you'll be overthinking it and over planning it, and it will become more logical. Sometimes the intuitive message doesn't make sense. And that's also that then we try and rationalize it and make sense of it, and actually end up making less sense of it. And I also listen, I see it as like, not just the information that's intuitive, but that our bodies are intuitive. So it's also about knowing like how your body is feeling or reacting to that. Like if you know where you hold your anxiety, if you know where that sits on a day-to-day basis when you're overthinking or in that anxious state, that's also going to be like on high overdrive, instead of it there being a sense of, I don't want to say calm or peace, but it's not going to impact, the intuitive message doesn't impact the body in that way either. For me, I just describe it as like, again, like it comes in, it gives you the message, and then it leaves. Does that make sense?
Totally. Is that what you refer to when you talk about the drop in? I know you use that phrase.
Yeah. I've used that. It's funny because that's what January is. January 2023, the theme for the year is for the month is the drop in, because we're getting these like drop in downloads and drop in energy that's coming in. But yeah, and the intuitive trust muscle, bringing it back to that fear and anxiety piece. Again, it's like, well, sometimes we put loads of pressure on ourselves that we have to like go for really big things. Like it's all about like moving the house or changing the job or ending the relationship. Like sometimes we put too much pressure that we want this to work on the really big things first versus being like, do you know what? I'm going to play with this with some smaller based like feelings of asking for things to show up or knowing which aisle to walk down, being like, do you know what, I really need this and I have this feeling it's going to be in this shop and it might be down here and no one's going to, do you know what I mean, like the most simple things. Sometimes it's easier to start with the simpler small things before putting the pressure on like the big life decisions. Yeah, because I think that can like really wreck your confidence in using it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
Amen.
It's I mean, can you talk a little bit too about sort of like in this theme of predicting 2023 and how we need to be more present now more than ever? You know, and as someone who likes to, I mean, I feel like I'm usually pretty comfortable with like being in the now and not trying to over plan everything because 9 times out of 10, it's not really how you think it's going to turn out. But like how do we put that into practice? Or like what, just, can you talk a bit more about
this
trying
year,
to be in the now?
Yeah, like this year isn't about goals. Like it really isn't about goals. It came through in the 2023 energy forecast. This year is not about like,
not about goals. I don't have to do anything. Just hang out.
It's about, no, it's about like moving towards something, but noticing whether you're someone that isn't in the present because you're always in the future, setting the next goal, setting the next target, setting the next thing. Because there's in this moving on energy, moving on insinuates that there is going to be lots of movement, that you're going to be moving towards something. And automatically as humans right now, many of us, when we say moving on, that means like setting the next goal, setting the next target, making the next thing that happens. And the irony being is that in this moving on energy, we're actually having less clarity of what we're moving towards. And so this moving on energy is being done in the unknown and is bringing us back into the present moment. So the moving on happens in the present versus like, well, what's happening in 6 months? What's happening in 10 months? What's happening in my business? Where am I going to be living? What's happening in my relationship? Am I going to have the money that I need to buy that house at the end of the year? Instead, they're like, this year is those present moments that nourish the body, that nourish the soul, that is like, do you know what? This feels fucking amazing right now. So do you know what? That's what I'm going to do. And it might not make sense next month and it might not make sense in 2 months, but do you know what? This is where I have the clarity, like in the now, that feels really good. And that's going to be testing a lot of people because it's actually bringing that intuition energy back into the now of like trusting yourself trusting yourself in the now. So for anyone personally is like, well, great, how do I stay in the present moment? Oh man, I mean, there's so many, like for me, I love breath work. Breath work is like really powerful to bring you back into the present moment in the now. Eating your favorite food and nourishing your body with your favorite food or your favorite drink, like, and taking that time out to be in the now with it and be open to receive the downloads and the drop-ins that are happening of what that is. Maybe you're someone that loves to move their body and they feel in the present moment the most when they're sweating. Maybe it's someone that just needs to be sat near a tree and doing nothing, and that's what they need to be in the present moment. But it's again like, do you know what? I'd ask people like, what were you doing in 2020 when you were stuck in your houses and you had to be in the present moment? Like, what were you like? Oh, I really want to do this because I know it really brings me joy and it brings me back into that moment. We're kind of returning into that simplicity, to bring it back into the now. And these practices are all about moving energy. This is all about moving energy, stagnant energy through the body so that we can feel more like ourselves in the now, where we're kind of clear of, the fears, the doubts, the exterior news information, the thing that your best friend or your partner just told you that's really pissed you off and that you need to get out of your you need to process. Like, it's all part of that.
Uh-huh.
I like it.
I feel like I want better news. Sorry, I think I want better news. Also, another question. What years did you predict? Like, what were the worst years that you predicted? What were the best? Like, did you see 2020 coming?
Yeah, I said at the start of 2020, there was going to be a global health crisis. And it came through in the 2020 energy forecast that came out in the start of first week of January.
Okay, so you weren't like, people are going to be displaced and this, what you were just like, no, there's going to be a pandemic.
Yeah, this is coming up. And it also came through around how people were going to be pitted against each other. And that, again, around using voices. And that year, 2020, was the year of self-sovereignty. I think that was a theme for 2020 that came through. And you couldn't have had a more apt theme for 2020.
Interesting.
And again, at the start of it all, and being like, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and people are like, yeah, whatever, you're crazy, like, this stuff won't happen like that. And it just it's unraveled in that way. So 2020 has come through as a big turning point. And I know there was so much pressure from the for people wanting 2021 to be better. Like, we've had such a shit year, and that's why, as we build through to 2026, 27, there's this real, and I always say is, you doing you being in your authentic self, you being in your true identity is the most powerful thing that you could do right now, because that energy and that frequency then ripples to your friends, it ripples to your family members, it ripples out to everyone that's around you. And that then inspires them to be their authentic selves and for them to communicate their truths. And in the end, that's what we're being asked to do right now. And so instead of seeing it as like, oh, fuck, does that mean the world's like self-imploding and where's, what's going to happen? Because I think we can then really spiral ourselves into doom and gloom, where it's like, well, what's the point of starting that business? What's the point of doing that thing? We can then be in this like fear. I kind of want to say fear of death, like fear of death mode, or fear of the ending, or fear of that being taken away. And of course, that's a massive human, thing that runs in all of us, like the fear that we could be here one day and gone the next. And so when we talk about things changing, I think that also has a really big impact on people, because 2020 was really looking at our relationship to death and endings, and looking at how as a global population, the fear of death unraveled to the max.
Yeah.
Because I've said on other podcasts, I've said on my own, there is going to be more death on this planet in this time moving forward. And so we're really looking at our relationship to death and endings at the same time too. But that's why living is really important right now.
Right. Exactly. That's why it's that much more important to be present.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, culturally, I think America is going to have that's going to be a very uncomfortable place to sit in, because we do not like to talk about death. We're not comfortable with the subject. It is just the scariest thing we could imagine. We need to learn from some other cultures on that tip.
It's gonna keep coming back around. It's gonna be interesting how death and the theme of death is gonna be spoken about, or just endings in general. yeah, the endings and the transformational cycle is going to be really fascinating.
Has my dog sent you any messages during this recording?
I love you.
He recently crossed over, and I just thought I saw a little something in your eye that suggested.
Let me see if I can bring him through. Hang on.
Irving wants to say hi.
Yeah. Firstly, there's something around like knowing that you did enough and that you have to give yourself permission and closure that you did enough to support him or did enough on his transition, like that you did enough, that you put enough, like you did everything that you could to keep him here, but also to give him the smoothness of the transition, like that you did enough. There's also something straight up around like new dog, new dog, new dog, new dog, new dog, new dog, new new dog, new dog. Like you need you that outlet. Like you really need that outlet. And it's like I don't want to. It's like you've been walking the walk that you used to do with him without him being there, or that there's been like you need to be in those spaces. It's important. Do you still have his bed?
He had a couple.
It's just like it feels. All I'm seeing is like there's an empty bed that wants to be refilled with another dog that really wants to come through.
All right.
Better tell your kiddos.
They've already told me.
They'll be so happy to hear it.
You guys need it as a family. There's something that the dog helps you all process your emotions. It helps you will get to process your things through the dog and the dog doesn't mind it. It's like cool about that. I should say.
That's the great thing about pets. You just like project all of your feelings onto them.
And they'll let you know when they're not happy with it too. They're like, back off. I'm not doing it. But you're supposed to have another dog.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that message.
Okay, me. What do you got?
Classic. You're in this like really big rebuild time of everything's being like rebuilt around. Like there is this being rebuilt around you. But I feel like there's something that it's fascinating that you really want beyond the wall, like a dream or a vision or how you want, or like a part of your business or something that you really want to like write a book or something that you feel like is unobtainable in this rebuild. And they're saying like, that's the thing that you need to move towards right now, because I feel like there's this like playing safe, instead of being like, this is what I really want and I'm going to go for it. So whatever you're wanting to move towards this year that feels unobtainable or feels like scary to like admit that that's the thing that you actually want, like that's the thing that you have to admit this year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. It's a dog.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
And again, it's like how you're seen and how you're heard is in that energy of like, or like what your creative self is. There's something on a creative level that wants to flourish. And it's like you're doing a dance around the creative project instead of just like being like, that's what I need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
It does. Oh, Natalie.
Gosh, well, I'm going to have to schedule my own session here.
Seriously.
We've gone deep and I know we've covered a lot.
No, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. We want to encourage people to read your book and listen to your podcast and maybe also come to you for one-on-one, but you're probably inundated, I'm sure, at this point.
Yeah, I have. I open up one-on-one sessions every month so that people can have access. They go out to my newsletter first, and you can also download the 2023 energy forecast. So if you want the full 2023 energy forecast, it's like 2 hours long and it goes really deep into all the themes. So yeah, you can download that, and I share like what's happening, like key energy for each month of the year, key events. And where we'll be moving through from January through to December as we move into 2024.
Love that.
Cool.
Wow. It's a lot to digest. It's a lot to digest. Thank you so much though. It's fascinating. It's like reading the best horoscope ever. I started. Remember the excitement, like reading the horoscope in like the back of the newspaper?
Yes.
Like reading your friends.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore, but it's very fun. Anyway, thank you so much. I can't wait to sign up and have a very in-depth session with you.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Natalie. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks so much for listening. If you like what you heard, please go to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. Give us a couple of stars. Give us 5 whole stars. They don't cost you anything. And you can find out more information on our website at htwpodcast.com. And you can follow us on social at Earth and Star, which is at Earth and Star Co. Thanks so much.